It happens, you know.
You're loud.
I know you are.
Anything else before we get started?
You have any questions for us?
If you need to take a break, like, hey, I got to get up and use the restroom, that's fine. I will probably do that.
He does, yeah.
But we don't pause it for me. But if you need to get up being the guest, then
just let us know.
Pause it. So we're good.
I'll let you know.
You ready?
I guess so. This is gonna. All right. I'm a little rusty. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so
no shit.
I know. I was on a business trip.
Yeah, whatever. Fine. That way. This I'm going to push this. It's going to turn red.
Yep.
REC stands for
record.
Recreational. Folks, welcome back to Toasting the Business. Lynn, it's glad to have you back.
I know. It's been 2 weeks.
It's okay. It's okay. I managed without you.
I know. You always do. You're superhuman.
Megan filled in.
I love Megan.
I know.
Yeah, she's the greatest.
Even Linda said she asks better questions than you do, Darren.
She does. She asks better questions than I do. She's very thoughtful.
She's considerate, but
yeah,
appreciate her filling in. But I'm happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Awesome.
This is my favorite thing to do during the week.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a highlight.
Good.
For sure.
Because get you out of the house.
Yeah, exactly. After working at home all day. Yeah.
I'm going to turn the air down for a second. Why don't you tell people who our sponsor is? Let's see if you can remember that.
Our sponsor is Perspective without an E. Get Perspective. If you are not sure about what you want to do in life, you're thinking about a career change, Get Perspective has all the videos and topics that you would want to explore if you're considering being an embalmer, a jet pilot, who else? A business owner like you. Yeah. Great little video vignettes that go into detail about your potential chosen career path and gives you more information on the ins and outs of it. And you can start from there. So yeah, we love Get Perspective.
Check it out. Go to the website, go to our site, check out the show notes, and you'll see a link to their page. And there's a little code in there if you want to get a discount. So thank you again for being our sponsor. Unfortunately, you couldn't be here this week, so I brought in a pinch hitter, believe it or not. That's a
good bottle of wine.
I like that.
That's not bad.
You can't go wrong.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go to get it?
I went down across the parking lot.
That's not bad for across the parking lot.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, they actually have good wines in there.
Do they?
Yeah.
I get a little sketched out when I go in there. I don't look around
here's
much.
The key. This is what I tell folks. If you don't know jack about wines, or even if you do, pretty much any Malbec that you buy from South America, Central America is going to be a hit. But if you really want something from the US, if it's from Washington State or Oregon, I guarantee it's probably going to be good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Washington State or Oregon, you'll get a good bottle of wine.
Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome. And thank you from the vineyards of Washington State.
Right.
For our red blend tonight. Anyway, let's get on to our guest.
Yes.
Because this man is unique.
He is unique.
Because he spells his first name without a K and he spells it with a C.
Yeah.
So it's Marc Cayle, right? Marc's waiting here in the wings. Thank you for being on the podcast. We got so many questions.
It's a little time.
I know. So why don't you give us a little snippet of who you are and what you do and why the hell did you want to be on our podcast?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Hopefully I'll have a bunch of answers for you. And really what I've done for the last 30 years is help people figure out what they want to do next with regard to investing in franchises. And so that's basically it in a nutshell. I help people diversify their income portfolios through franchise ownership. So I was a franchisor and helped to launch a franchise company. I've been a multi-unit franchisee with a very successful exit. And we were in the in-home care agency field with that. And in the meantime, I've been helping people figure it out for the last 25 years of what would be a good fit for them.
Yeah, we've had a couple people on. We've had someone on who is similar and she does what you do, I think. We'll find out. Maybe not, a little different. And then we've had a franchisor on, John Hewitt, who, you know John?
Yep.
And I'm like, wait a second, tax business and you're doing it 3 times and talk about an exit.
Ooh, yeah.
Big time. It's like, why would you go back and do it again?
Go ahead.
So rinse and repeat, right?
I know. And Lynn has like, she's got a certain time. She's like, I really can't wait to talk to Marc because, and the reason I said C is he spells it M-A-R-C, right?
Correct.
And see right there.
I see
And
it.
so, but she's like, I think I want to find business to do. And I don't know if it's really for her. I think she wants her husband to have something else to do.
Yes, he needs something else to do.
I get that all the time.
So she wants to pick your brain a lot, but you were a franchisor. That's what you did first?
Correct.
And what type of business did you have? What was it?
So a little bit of the backstory was right out of school, I was selling group health insurance and I absolutely hated it. But it allowed me to meet a lot of cool business owners. And I wound up selling the group health policy to the founder of a company called Breadsmith. And they did European style bread right out of a European oven on site from scratch every day. And they've won international awards for the bread. It's unbelievable. And so I was taking the bread home to my then girlfriend, who has now been my wife for 30 years. And I said, what do you think of this bread? And I actually brought her some of Breadsmith bread and then some of the competition. And she was like, oh, this one's the real deal. And so one thing led to another. And the founder said, listen, I'm going to be franchising this thing. Would you like to help? And I said, what do you mean, like McDonald's? Like I had no idea what a franchise was at that point. And fortunately, he was a Harvard MBA, brilliant guy, really scrappy entrepreneurial guy, from Chicago. I think his mom was a school teacher, his dad was a bus driver, some real down to earth, really cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll try that. And so the best thing about him is that he was very frugal. Like rip a Post-it note in half frugal.
Oh, that's
And
frugal.
Yeah, it was for me at that point. I was like, okay, I had enough of that routine, but the rest of it was fantastic. And now I look back and say, oh, I get it. Right. And he was just trying to be frugal and suck the money away and do it right. And that's exactly what he did. Mm-hmm. And so because he was so frugal, we wrote what was called the Uniform Franchise Offering Circular together without an attorney.
Oh,
and so we basically poached one from somewhere. I don't know what he did, but they're boilerplate 23 item documents and you just stick your own information in there anyway.
Plausible deniability. He from somewhere. I have no idea.
For sure, it's been done correctly now. But we sold a lot of franchises all really quickly. And what happened was, I was really involved with everything from running the corporate stores, meaning getting up at midnight to mix dough kind of stuff, all the way through selling the franchises, helping the people through training, getting their real estate figured out, design, layout, all of it. And then help train them to open and then help them open, and then was an operations guy too. So I did everything in franchise you could possibly do, which was the perfect way to cut my teeth on franchising. I got the School of Hard Knocks MBA, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was a wonderful experience. And one day he came to me, he said, well, I think we're good on the development side. I really want to sort of support the people that we have in play and slow down on the sales part. And I said, well, I'm getting paid on the sales part. So what should we do here? He said, well, you can go into operations. I said, no, I don't want to go into operations. I love sales. I just love it. And so we parted ways very congenially. It was just, we still talk. He's just the greatest guy in the world. And I wound up joining as the second consultant a company called Franchoice, which is a national consultant network. Mm-hmm. And I was the second guy. And again, it was one of these things where we had to sort of figure it out together. There was really not a lot of training back then, and we all just figured it out. But what it allowed me to do was, when someone came in to look at a Breadsmith's hard. I mean, and it wasn't inexpensive either because we're using imported ovens from France and a beautiful build out and all that stuff. So it was expensive. And so it wasn't for everybody. And I saw people walk out the door because it wasn't a good fit. And I was like, oh my God, they would be so great for something. I wish I could help them. Well, Franchise allowed that because we have a whole inventory of franchises. At this point, I have over 250 franchises.
Now,
whoa.
Let me ask you this. Was Franchise, when you say a portfolio of 250, were those franchise companies who came to you and said, we want you to go out and sell our franchise for us and we'll pay you a commission, or we'll partner on it somehow?
It started with 4, I think, when I was first started.
Holy cow.
And it grew
any
over
of them a poop scooping business? Because that's what Lynn's really interested in.
You know what the hilarious thing, the last podcast I was on, they said the same thing.
Well, it's because John Hewitt talked about that. One of his franchises that he's into is poop scooping business.
Yeah.
Poop scooping company.
Well, there's a lot of poop. And
I know there is a lot of poop. Yeah. Yeah, it's gross.
So, with the way politics are going, there's going to be a lot. No.
Yeah.
Don't touch that.
And we'll probably talk about more of this, but there's something for everyone, right?
So
and this allows me to find something for everyone. I mean, there's really almost nobody that I talk to that I can't find something for.
Wow. What do you got?
Okay, all right, I want to know, aside from the poop scooping, because we beat that to death in another episode, what is the up and coming like top 3 types of franchises that you would recommend for people to consider?
Sure. So back when, I mean, I used to just have to figure out something that was sort of recession resistant.
Yeah.
Now we're thinking about recession resistant, Amazon resistant, and pandemic resistant, right?
Yeah.
So it really sort of funnels everything towards essential businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And in that realm, I would say the 3 categories, rather than specific franchises, but categories would be pet related.
Mm-hmm.
Think poop and scoop and poop, whatever you want to think. But there's also grooming. There's a whole bunch of other great stuff. We have, the Whole Foods of pet stores we have, in the image. There's a whole bunch of really cool stuff in that segment. So pet related, anything kid related, whether that's enrichment programs, whether that's tutoring, whether that's sports, whether that's swimming, all sorts of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then senior related. Those are the 3 categories that people will absolutely spend money on no matter what.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, because I was in the senior related business, we had 250 caregivers running around in people's homes every day. And people paid. I mean, and it was mostly private pay. And you're not going to, it's a bigger category of all these things would maybe be like dirty jobs that no one wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
People will pay you to do those things. And those are the categories that I love.
What about, I don't want to call it legacy, but you said the kids category. So you have, you're working with them at one level. Is there like a tiered franchise or multiple franchises that you could still, once you have that child for one program, as they grow, I just happen to have another franchise that they can transition into, and then maybe another one. Is there something like that out there in the market?
I'm smiling because I'm doing a campaign right now where I help people literally diversify. If they have a franchise in that segment, we talk about, okay, are you landlocked? Can you open up more units or territories with your existing franchise? Or do you need to branch off and diversify into other franchises that are complementary? Right? This is exactly what I'm doing now with a bunch of people that I've worked with before. Because again, I've been doing it for 25 years. I have a gentleman, a couple of guys in Michigan that both have, one has 13 and one has 16 Great Clips. They both come back for additional concepts that they can basically parlay their existing customers into using their other services. And that's exactly what's so awesome about the franchise industry in general, is like you can stack these franchises.
Yeah.
There are home service concepts where, if you have a maid service, you can add on window cleaning, you could add on carpet cleaning, you could add on all these sort of, everything. You can just stack them up.
Okay. What I find interesting is you said it's recession proof, pandemic proof, and what was the third?
Amazon proof.
Amazon proof. Yeah, Amazon. I'm always yelling at Brent. Target carries that. You don't have to order that one thing from Amazon.
Please get out of the house for a half hour. Exactly. Please go to Target.
It's interesting. My wife just this morning said to me, they're closing 2,000 Walmarts.
What?
Ooh, that's what she said. Cow. I don't know where she saw it, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
That seems unimaginable.
Have you been to Walmart lately? I don't know, whatever.
No, at around 2000, the year 2000, I'm like, nope, not doing this anymore. I don't like the way they treat their suppliers. But what I wanted to say about these three choices of the three, two are, very close to your heart. They're almost intrinsically emotional types of things. You want the best for your children. You want the best for your elderly relative, and you're still working full time and you can't go take care of that elderly relative every day. So you're like, this is the best, whatever, $1,000 a month or whatever it is that I've ever spent for my mental health, for my parents' care and mental health. And it kind of takes people the burden off of, care, family members really. So.
My mom used to do something along, it wasn't like she wasn't a caregiver, but she would just go hang out with somebody. Like she got paid to go hang out and spend a couple hours a day and just talk. So someone has human contact instead of nothing.
But it's so needed. I mean, it's
our
insane.
concept was non-medical. So it was companionship a lot.
Really?
We had one customer who was, I think he was in his late 80s or early 90s, and he was blind and he loved to gamble.
Oh God.
And he used to take the caregiver with him to the casino.
Oh boy.
In northern Wisconsin. They would take the drive up and they would do these. And so it's like even that kind of stuff. You don't think about it, but it gave him joy. And he couldn't have done it without her. Right. And obviously she was trustworthy and everything else. So,
you have to be. You hear the bells and whistles going off from the slot machine. What I win?
$100.
$100.
Really 5,000.
Getting the rest, signing the receipt over there. Right. He doesn't know.
I think that certainly the in-home care agencies out there are doing wonderful things every day for people, and it's mostly for the adult children, really. I mean, the seniors honestly could care less, most of them. It was the adult children. We were doing it for the kids.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in that position right now where, my mom's in independent living. She still is paying to have a helper come in to make sure, have you taken your meds today on time? Right. What is your blood sugar? I can't do it because I'm traveling and working full time, and my husband's not going to go over and do it because that's kind of a little more intimate than he wants to get with my parent. But he'll do things like over there and repair. But just having that person there, that's kind of, riding herd on my mom. Did you eat?
Yeah.
Have you gotten out of bed? I mean, it's makes life so much easier. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
What kind of franchise? You said you were a franchisee as well. So what franchise were you not a founder because you bought into one as a franchisee. So what did you buy? What was your thing?
So the in-home care agencies that we had was called Comfort Keepers.
Oh, I've heard of that.
So, yeah. So there's about, I think, 600 or 700 offices around the country. And I got really into it. I was on the advisory council for the home office. I dove in, and it was just it was a wonderful experience. We had, the reason why we even were attracted to it was I had lost my dad when I was 21 years old. He died of colon cancer, and it was a disaster. It was horrible. And when the caregivers were coming in our house, they were, and eventually it was hospice, but they lifted the world off our shoulders for a couple hours. And as it came around, I was doing a presentation at UW Milwaukee and at their entrepreneurship group. And it was a lunch, and there were people in the audience that actually owned 2 of the territories, and they basically cornered me at lunch, and they said, we're trying to figure out starting a franchise of our own in the geriatric care management concepts, but we want to sell this business first. Would you help us? Okay, I could do that. And turned out I wound up finding a buyer, but it fell apart in the 11th hour. So, but during the due diligence I was helping them do, I would turn to my wife and I'm like, wow, this is like the real deal. Like, these people are doing great things and doing well at the same time. Like, this is a really cool deal. Maybe we should figure this out. And so one thing led to another. And when the deal fell apart, I called the sellers and I said, listen, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news is the buyer's out, but if you hold paper, I'm in. And they did.
Okay.
And so we bought the 2 existing offices, and then I added a third, which was actually closer to my house. The third that we started from scratch actually was the best of the 3 because it was my baby and I didn't inherit other stuff.
Yeah.
But it was really a great experience, and we wouldn't have really sold it, but my attorney dropped a buyer in my lap with an absurd number, and everything's for sale. Like, I'm just not an emotional guy that way.
Right.
I loved my staff. I had no turnover in 10 years in the offices.
Oh, that's excellent.
People.
Yeah.
Wow.
No turnover. And I could add story after story. We could talk about that, but
yeah,
it was like family. So that was tough, but ultimately, when someone hands you a check like that, you say, have a beautiful day. Goodbye. And that was it.
Honey, we're going to Barbados. That's the next thing out of your mouth.
Honey, we're going to Sarasota.
No, that was years later because our kids were still young enough where they were at the house. So as soon as my youngest left the house, we about 15 minutes later packed our bags.
Yeah, and left. So when you were starting, took over that franchise and started the third office, because I've heard, don't buy yourself a job if you want to get involved with franchising. But I know there's some things you have to do to get it started. So how hands-on were you in starting that third office? And then at what point did you kind of back away to pursue other things?
Had 10 years of employee retention, so he was just the right kind of hands-on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
Without ever going to HR.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Interestingly enough, I inherited the staff, right, for the first 2 offices. So in the third office, I did start it from scratch myself. I hired a key person right away. I am all about delegating and getting out of the way. I could tell you that it was a 24/7, 365, 3 shift a day business.
Yeah.
And we set it up where we had managers at each office and then a GM overseeing them. And it is, I would say, almost impossible, but we did not get an after hours phone call in 10 years.
Wow.
Because we trusted the people that worked for us. We set it up that they, if they asked me a question, I would turn it right around and say, how would you do it?
Yeah.
You know more about this business than I do. And I was not afraid to say that.
Right.
I had not walked into one home.
Wow.
I hired people to do all those things.
Yeah.
I was a 50,000 foot version person, and that's what I am still. I hate details. I hate accounting. I hate all of it. I honestly do. And I just surrounded myself with awesome people that loved doing those things and were really good at those things. And I just got out of the way. And that's how we built the business that big, because we were one of the larger businesses like that in the country at the time. And I would go to these conferences, the annual conferences and the regional conferences, and there would be franchisees that had to get up and answer the phone during the meetings and everything. I'm like, where are you going?
Oh, no.
What are you doing? I didn't understand it. So, but that's how I built it. And that's how, it was worth it to us to pay other people enough where we made less, but I had no headaches.
Right. Yeah. That's a fine line, isn't it? Yeah. It is a major fine line.
So, well, like you said, you don't want to buy yourself a job, which is a great thing to say.
Yeah.
So how do you, you have all these franchises that you were selling before and now consulting. That's got to be a key factor in there, because some of these franchises you are required to be like employee number one. And whether it's in a management position or something, but it's like, there's one here in town actually where you're required to work 40 hours a week in your, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's required. You have to be on site 40 hours a week. It's like, no, I don't need to. Why can't I hire it? And have you worked with people when they're, and I'm sure you've done this when you're consulting for folks who are starting a franchise or have one and they're trying to modify it, and you look at that and you mention that question to them, and do they just roll their eyes at you and go, why, how is that even possible? How can I be the 50,000 foot version? And well, I mean, you can if you want to make a little less money, or you need to restructure it. Have you talked to folks like that?
Absolutely.
And
So
what do they
what
say?
I always tell people is, listen, when the startup costs are X and you want a manager in place, you just put X plus Y so you can afford the manager right away. And if you know what you're getting into and you know that you can delegate properly and get out of the way, you will scale that business 10 times faster than doing it yourself. And I told someone the other day, I think it was a friend of mine who was talking about bringing someone on. I said, you know, if you bring someone on and they do it like 90% as good as you, but allows you to grow the business 2 to 3x, why wouldn't you do that?
Mm-hmm.
People have this issue with trust and that they have to do everything themselves. And those are the people that work in it instead of on it, and they'll never scale.
Okay. So you kind of have to throw caution to the wind.
Yes.
Have confidence in your people.
Well, you
to make the right decisions.
Hire to your weaknesses, and then you complement your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So if you always hire to your weakness, like you said, I hate accounting. I do too. I'm meeting with my accountant tomorrow.
Good times.
As a matter of fact, to go over some stuff.
Need another bottle of wine to go with you.
He's like, you know, the weather, you can reschedule. I'm like, no, I will be there. I will freaking paddle my ass there in my kayak if I have to, but I will be there tomorrow. And, but it's anything that you're weak in or you can't stand because it's an energy suck, hire somebody to do it.
Right.
And figure out how to pay them. And then the other people that are as good, like you said, 90% is good, right? If they're 90% as good as you are, now you can go do other shit.
Right. So what's the key to overcoming the fear of delegation?
I would say just trusting the fact that you don't know it all. There's so many people that know more than I do especially things that I don't like to do or don't want to do. Why wouldn't I try to find the best person I can to do those things? And it's just, again, once you do it, you're like, wow, why did I wait that long to do that?
Right.
And as long as you, again, are not sucking the life out of the business to pay that person, you have to be financially able to do it. I mean, we were generating a great deal of cash flow with this business, so it didn't bother us. And we even paid our GM probably 15, 20 grand more than normal, like for that position. But I never had to ever worry, ever. I went to bed at night knowing that I would wake up in the morning and I've got 250 people making me money. And it just,
I mean,
nice feeling.
It's a great concept.
Right. I mean, I would tell people, you can call me if there's blood or fire.
Yeah.
And that would be that. And it would be like a joking thing. I wasn't like threatening them. It was like, you know what to do it and ask for forgiveness later. Like I would literally tell people there's a million ways to get to 10. 5 plus 5, 7 plus 3, 2, whatever, 2 plus 8. I said, I don't care how we get to 10 as long as we get to 10. And you can do what you need to do the best that you can do it without me hovering over you. Micromanaging for me was the worst experience. Like I said, I worked for one person in my life. And the first time he looked at his watch when I came back home, felt like home, when I came back to the office to work and from lunch, I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just not wired that way. And that was it. Like it was just not going to happen. So I'm not about to do that to people. I just would never do that.
And I'm sure your general manager and the people that work for the company were so appreciative, like, oh, I feel so honored that he trusts me to do this and make the right decisions, right? And that's probably why you kept people for 10 years. You had no turnover because you trusted them. They felt honored and accepted and appreciated.
They were empowered.
Yeah.
And
they need to be.
They knew that they would make the decisions. And even if they made a mistake, it wasn't like I was going to come in and fire them. We would have a discussion and say, hey, next time you do that, maybe think of it this way. Or, you know, it was not like there's a better way. Think of it in an alternative way.
Or the only way. This is the only way you can do it. And if you don't do it this only way.
My way.
My way.
And, you know, even when I would be introducing my staff to people, I would say, this is Linda, and she works with me, not for me. It's the little tiny things that make such a difference that I could go on and on and on and on about stories that happened that made it just a wonderful place to work. We can talk about that later, but I mean, it was just a wonderful experience for everyone.
I mean, I think it's important as an entrepreneur for, you know, other entrepreneurs or people who are potentially wanting to start their own business to hear stories like this, and that, yeah, it is your money, it is your baby, but you've got to empower the people around you to do the right thing so that you can grow and they can grow too. There's nothing worse than being micromanaged to death.
Even in the corporate world.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing can apply.
I went, when I started in a different position with a company and I was with, and we had a team meeting, and I asked everybody, well, what's your opinion? And they stared at me.
Crickets. Yeah.
They
were terrified. Yeah.
And finally I asked, I said, this microphone on, you know, just joking because it's only like, there's 10 of us. And I said, you guys talk to me all the time.
Yeah.
And I've known you for years and I've talked to you on the phone. Now I'm face to face. And they're like, nobody's asked us our opinion before.
Yeah.
It was like something, I'm like, you're the boots on the ground.
Right.
You hear you're in contact with the customer.
But no, Darren, you're Oz. You're all knowing.
No,
they thought you were Oz.
I'll tell you what, that atmosphere changed so quick. I'm like, oh, that's bullshit. You guys are. I even told them one time I went on vacation. I said, I know you're going to have a team meeting and, you know, your supervisor is going to run it. One thing I want you to do, everybody needs to get up and do your impersonation of me while I'm not there.
Hilarious.
They freaking went nuts. They had a blast. I'm like, don't record it. I don't want to see it. But they laughed.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
There's a lot of things that you can, I mean, and again, it's this personal growth that you can help people with that. We had hired a caregiver and she was in nursing school and she was a star. Like I rarely interviewed caregivers because I had HR people that did that. But one of them came to me and said, you know, this girl's special. Why is she a caregiver? And I said, I don't know. She should be a client care coordinator, which is the person who goes in, figures out the care plan, figures out the billing with the people, how many hours they need, blah, blah, blah. So I brought her into my office and she was young and she was scared and she was like, you could see almost like her lip was trembling, like she thought she was in trouble or something. And I turned to her, I said, you should be a client care coordinator. She goes, oh, there's no way. There's no way I could do that. There's just no way. I said, yes, you can. And yes, you will. And we're going to try this, you know, little baby steps first. But I promise you that you're going to be thanking me down the road because it's going to expand your horizons and you're going to be doing things. You're going to make more money and you're going to do all these wonderful things. She did finally agree after, I mean, it was probably a week went by. And I brought her back in. I said, are we doing this or what? And she's like, and she said, okay, I'll try it. She crushed it. She was the best client care coordinator, probably the entire system. My previous client care coordinator, she was a little bit older. She couldn't deal with the technology changes that we were having. So we agreed to part ways. And that was really one of the only times like I didn't say I lost somebody. It was just, we parted ways. Let's just say that.
You broke up.
Yes.
Broke up. Yeah.
So, and
He
I had
moved on to
inherited
greener
her.
pastures.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had inherited her from the previous owners. She was lovely, but she just was old school. She just couldn't understand. We were changing to iPads so that you can do the care plan in the house. You didn't have to come back to the office and spend another 2 hours doing paperwork.
Oh, wow.
Just was like boom, boom, boom. And this woman would not have it.
When the fax machine went, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean I can't use the fax anymore?
It was like that. But this girl was a star, and she still actually reached out. This was a long time ago because we sold in 2014, but she had an employer reach out to me a couple of months ago to get
reference. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one example of a billion probably that we had, but is the personal growth and the camaraderie and the warmth and I mean, back then you could hug. I don't know, probably wound up in
you can't anymore now.
But it was like, we were a family.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
You sold in 2014.
I did.
And then you and your wife at the time, I'm assuming she went from girlfriend to wife. At that point?
She's my high school
30 years, right?
We've been married for 30 years.
Wow. Nice. Wow. You guys then did what after you sold that business?
So then I had done my franchise consulting, and that's where Frandestiny comes in. So we're a DBA. We do business as Frandestiny, but it's for franchise. And so I had been doing that prior, and then sort of left during that time to run the Comfort Keepers deal. And so then I just went back to doing franchise consulting.
And that's what you're still doing to this day?
Yes. I did a couple of other things in the meantime. That I brought a consumer electronics device to market that was aimed at seniors for remote patient monitoring. And raised a bunch of VC money to do it. And we got into the market. We were a bit premature, and it was a bit expensive for dealers to do. So we sold the intellectual property to a competitor. But that was, again, School of Hard Knocks deal. But I saw this gap in technology, and someone had to fill it. So I did my best.
The device that you were selling, was your advertising campaign, did it have the slogan, "Help, I've fallen, but I can't get up"? No.
Well, interestingly enough, it was in that lane. I mean, it had personal emergency response in it, but it would also, if someone took their blood pressure or their weight or their blood sugar or whatever, it would grab it. It would then push it out to anyone who wanted to see it, including doctors and things like that. It was able to, when you push the button, the lights in the room went on and the door unlocked so the EMS didn't knock down the front door. It did a ton of things.
Oh, wow.
I brought a Bentley to market, and people were looking for a Hyundai. So it was like one of those things where I was ahead of my time.
With the Yugo.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great experience.
It's fun to try things like that, though, if you can absorb the loss.
Oh, we were swinging for the fences, and I guess fortunately there was not much of my personal investment in it. We took on money, which diluted me more than I would have liked.
Sure. Those are hard phone calls when you're calling the VCs at the end going, by the way, they gotta fly. So you stayed in
money.
Right. We're going for
my burn rate is
what round is this? We've ran through the alphabet. We're going on to,
we ran through the alphabet for sure.
So you're still doing the consulting. What is it that you like about this consulting business, and what don't you like? Like the parts of it you go, man, this is the only thing. If I didn't have to do it, it's part of the job, but if I could remove this, it'd be just a perfect job.
Yeah, I think the thing that I love the most is I meet so many cool people. My service is free, so it's sort of like gets that out of the way. They're not paying me. It's like working with a real estate broker, right? You don't pay that broker, the seller does. And I meet so many cool people and learn everything about them and their families and their wishes and their dreams and all the things they're trying to do, and we can help them realize their dreams, which is basically our tagline, through franchise ownership. And I see them blossom as people, and because sometimes they don't know if they could do it. And we've placed people, and I say we because my wife and I both do franchise full time. So she has her candidates, I have mine. And so when someone goes to our website, you'll see both of us. But when you see someone come back to you and they say, Marc, thank you so much, my whole life has changed. We're placing like franchisees of the year, rookies of the year, because we're handing these people to the franchisor on a silver platter. I mean, we know that they're a good fit. And that's the most wonderful part, is to see people succeed based on what I help them do. The thing that I think it's probably obvious, that lead gen sucks. I mean, that's no fun. But doing things like this is fun. And I've gotten plenty of leads from great podcasts that I've done before.
I'm sure you have.
So
yeah.
It's all of these things that I try to do to make it fun. And it's not like I'm cold calling. I mean, we're doing a website optimization right now. We're starting with some Google stuff. We're starting with some Facebook ads. We're starting with all, but we also have purchased leads in the past, and those leads are hot, ready to go leads. So they're interested in franchising. It's not like it's hard. It's just not fun.
Yeah, that's administrative work, really, is what it boils down to. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not the fun stuff. Yeah. So have you ever worked with couples or, younger people who say, maybe they're in their mid-30s, I got an extra XXX to spend, potentially?
So really funny story. I'm working with, so in Milwaukee, I had this beautiful 90-gallon saltwater fish tank.
Ooh.
And I had bought it from a local store, and this young couple worked in the fish room, and I just fell in love with them. They were fantastic. And like when we would leave town, I would give them the keys to our house and they would go take care of my fish tank.
Nice.
They were wonderful. Well, fast forward to about a month ago, I get a call and it's them. And they're absolutely in their 30s. They've got a young, like little kid. And then an older child, from a previous marriage, but they didn't have two nickels to rub together, but he won $100,000 into scratch off.
Are you serious?
Oh
my
I'm
gosh.
not kidding.
That good for them.
And this is what they're doing with the money. They're investing it in a franchise.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So really smart young people, go-getters. Like I would hire both of them tomorrow to run anything that I had.
Okay. Right.
Just wonderful people. My wife just helped one of my daughter's best friends. He's 25 years old, smart as a whip. He blew everyone away, like at the franchisor level. His dad is going to be his bank, and he just bought a 3-pack of a great concept for himself down in Fort Myers. And so there's young people that we work with all the time. The oldest one I've ever worked with is 71.
Okay. So there's still hope for me. Post-retirement. So as far as young people, old people, what is like roughly the minimum amount of money that you need to get into a franchise, just to be well-rounded and set up for success? Because that's always been one of those questions that's been running in the back of my mind. Like, okay, we have a nest egg, but is this enough to do?
So there's so many ways to fund franchises that people just don't understand. So I would say, first of all, the franchise fee has to be paid upfront in cash.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So franchise fees range anywhere from 40 to, call it 80 grand, whatever it is.
Right. Okay.
If you're doing a single unit, that's one thing. If you're doing multiples, it obviously it's a multiple of that.
Sure.
But if you're doing a multiple, the franchisor will give you discounts on the second and third franchise, right? If you do it as a package. And that's a whole nother conversation.
Sure.
Do that. And what I tell people is, listen, you need at least 50 to 100 grand to even feel comfortable doing something like this.
Right.
But it doesn't all have to be cash. So I would say 60 to 70% of the people we work with these days are doing 401k rollovers. So there are companies that this is all they do is help people do this, and you pay them a fee, and you form a corporation, and you can roll that 401 into the corporation, and there's no debt service on the money, and there's no pre-withdrawal or tax penalties to do it.
My mind has just been blown. I did not know that was even possible.
Yeah. It's a fabulous way to do it, because if you look at this, if you're investing in your 401k, right, and you've left your company and you are now managing it, or there's a third party managing it, because you can't do it while you're employed because the company manages it.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're investing in the market, you're just tossing money at it and hoping for 10%, right? Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The difference between that and investing in yourself, meaning pulling those funds and using them for a franchise, is you're investing your money and your time and your expertise, and you're getting out of bed in the morning and making it happen. So you should expect a way higher return.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so why wouldn't you use some retirement money to do that?
Right.
We did it when we did it, and it paid off like exponentially for us. Because our exit was great. I mean, great exit.
And then you're not at the whim of the stock market.
Right.
Or whatever's happening with the economy. Yeah.
And you don't have to take all of it out. You take out what you need. Right. You don't want to take out less than $50,000 from 401. That's like when you roll something over, just because the economies of the fee and things that go along with it don't make sense for less. Yeah. But this is what people do, or they do a HELOC. I mean, now that the rates are coming down, finally, I mean, I think we're going to see more of that. But you don't need hard cash sitting in a savings account to do this. There's many ways to do this.
See, and that's why people need to work with an expert like you, is that, I look at these franchises that have popped up all over town, and I'm like, wow, that's a really great idea. Da-da-da-da. How are they doing this? Where's the money coming from? How do you finance this? How do I get started? I mean, you think, I know I'm a pretty good business person. I hate accounting, but I can pretty much do everything else. But how do I get this load of money to get started up?
It's not, I mean, that is the scary point. I've looked into franchises in the past over the decades, and the ones that I've looked into, they were all, you have to have a net worth of.
Yes,
and it's like,
that's just so intimidating.
The entry point is so high on those. And it's like, what about like you were saying, the people in their 20s, 30s, whatever, even older folks like us who are like, I don't want to touch my retirement, but I'm not flush with cash. I only have this much.
Right.
My net worth isn't everything that on paper, what you need. So I'm sure and maybe you don't get enough phone calls, and hopefully you'll get more after this, but folks that go, I'm young. I want to supplement my income.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a franchise opportunity because I don't want to deal with all the startups. Just give me something that I can turn the lights on, unlock the door, or, start the engine and go. And I could do it on this. It's like unfortunately, the poop business or whatever else. You're not the person,
you poop, we scoop.
Any business, the mosquito spraying business, you don't, the boots on the ground going out and doing it. You want to manage it, open it, and have all the folks doing it for you. And you're like, hey, there's my paycheck. Look at this, what I did, while you're still doing your other job. And at one point, maybe that crosses over where you finally go, this is really good. I can exit my 9 to 5 and just continue to do this, and maybe open up more locations as well. And that's what, the younger folks, or when people call you and they go, I only have this much. Where's a good franchise for me where I got 10 grand? How can I start a franchise with 10 grand, and a decent one that I can expect not to hopefully lose my money? Mark?
Yeah, I would say that there's, the investment ranges are huge, right? And so 10 grand, that's rough. I mean, that's you're going to have a hard time finding something for that amount of money. So, but I would say that every franchisor is going to have a net worth and liquidity requirement, right? But there are some as inexpensive, all in, including the franchise fee and some working capital and everything, 75 grand all in. I can tell you an extreme example, right? We placed a friend of the family, which was, these are always, we're sort of like quaking in our boots, hoping that it'll work out. The total investment was 75,000. She's doing over 3 million a year.
Holy moly!
Now, she's an extreme
example.
example.
That wine, I almost put that across the room.
So it's an extreme example. She's the best in the country, right? But it's still possible. And she had no idea she could do anything. She couldn't, she was raising kids for however long. She had no idea that she could do this. My wife interviewed her, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years after she got out of the gate. And the one question my wife asked her was, what did you learn? And she goes, you know what? I learned I could sell. And she had no idea. She had a passion for the business, so she could have no problem talking about it. And it turns out that not only could she sell, she could manage an entire team of people that now have cloned herself. So she's working on it instead of in it. And she's running a huge organization on a $75,000 investment. Now, again, it's rare. That's an exception, not the rule. But you can do it. If she could do it, why couldn't you do it?
True.
What do you think about the opportunity? So, as you said, there's a minimum point of entry. There's a ground floor level income wise. When you're talking to somebody who does not have that or can't raise it, and I'm sure the SBA works with franchises as well, right?
Absolutely.
So you can contact the SBA, get an SBA loan. And the nice thing about that is there's the business plan. You're not writing it to present it to them. So that's fantastic. Right. But on the other side, are there franchises out there? Like if I came to you and I'm like, Mark, I got 20 grand. This is it. I really believe in this one franchise that we've talked about. And this is what I want to do. And you go, you know what? There's an opportunity. And here's how it works. You go work for this company in the franchise you want, and then maybe over time you're earning sweat equity that you can apply towards your own franchise of that corporate. Is there something like that out there?
I think there are certainly franchisees out there that would hire the right person and wind up giving them equity along the way. I mean, we've told our son, he's 20 years old, he's a young kid, school is not his thing, and we said, you can go cut your teeth on everyone else's business, and eventually we will go with you on a franchise without question. The kid could sell you the shirt you're wearing it for more than you bought it for. Okay, so I have no issues with someone like that, and obviously he would have equity and everything else. We are working with plenty of people, again, young people whose parents are their bank. While you were out, I mean, I'm working with a young couple. The guy won 100 grand on a scratch off, and he's investing it in a franchise. So there's a million ways to figure out where the money's come from. I have 3 or 4 people that I've worked with in the past that are, $50 million people who say I don't have to do a franchise, but if you find someone, I'll invest in them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do this, and you don't have to be wealthy to do it. You have to have grit. You have to believe in yourself. You have to be able to get up in the morning and follow a system and make it work. And there is no reason why not everyone in the world can't be successful at something. They just have to find the right fit.
Right. And get up in the morning, have the grit. Sometimes it's hard. You're having a bad day. Like, I don't have the grit today. I'm not so sure about
put
this.
An extra shot in your whiskey and you'll be good. In your coffee. Sorry.
Not the whiskey.
Put another shot of coffee in your whiskey. Sorry. It works different in my house.
I guess it could go both ways.
Yeah. So
Darren.
I got myself on that one. You have 200 and something franchises that you're trying to sell to folks or guide people in the right direction in there. Are there, I mean, this is the group, you don't pick and choose the franchise companies that are in the whole scheme of things, right?
Correct. Yeah, they basically come to franchise because they want to develop more units, right? And I can tell you, when you said sell, I have to interrupt, because in franchising, franchises for good franchises, they are not sold, they're awarded. And so that's a huge differentiator, right? Because if you think that you have, can fog a mirror and have a pulse that you can buy a franchise, that is absolutely not the case in good franchises, because they're looking at you just as hard as you're looking at them, if not harder, because you're going to be the ambassador of their brand, and they need to protect the integrity of that brand. So they're going to choose people that they believe in. And it's going to be, you have to prove the fact that you can make it happen, and not everyone gets approved.
Is there, on that note, does FranChoice also approve the franchise company, these companies that want to come on board and say, hey, we want, because you have to admit, there's a lot of them that they're just shit. Okay. They're not worth it.
4,000 franchise companies out there, and
how many?
About 4,000.
4,000. And a lot of them, the companies are looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for the franchisor. It's like, all you got to do, I just want my monthly fee. I want you to buy my products so I can make more on you. And I really don't give a crap how much you make.
Yeah.
I'll tell you can make this much. The potential is there. But I'm sure coming to a organization, and FranChoice has been around they've been around for a long time. They're reputable. And so when somebody approaches them and comes to you, and it's like, I'm talking to Mark or his wife, by the way, are you and your wife competitive? Do you have a board to see who, like, she go, I one-upped you today. You're making dinner and doing really the dishes.
Our joke is, like, you've seen the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
That's us. Except we're much better looking than them. But that's our joke. It's like, she has her candidates, I have my candidates, and we are very competitive. She's actually more competitive than I am, which is fine with me, because she crushes it. And it all goes into the same bucket. So
yeah, that's kind of nice, right?
but I mean, FranChoice does try their best to flush out the franchises that don't look out for both sides of the coin.
Exactly. And the franchisors, they are, we have a team of people that really looks at them as if we were going to become franchisees ourselves. And we know that the parent companies are strong, that they have good track record. And if they're embryonic new companies, they're part of an existing franchisor umbrella that has done this before with other brands and maybe sold out the country. And so then they're like, well, we need another brand. So they go out and they search and they find another brand, and they do the same. It's, again, rinse and repeat with another brand. And so we have helped plenty of franchisors sell out the country. And then what do? Right. So these embryonic brands are still part of a company with great track record that has done it before.
So you're trying not to oversaturate the market with a certain franchise. It's like, how many Firehouse Subs or Subways could you have?
No. How many nail salons can you have in one city that only houses 30,000 people?
Wait a second. Really? Are nail salons a franchise thing?
There are franchises in nail salons, but I would say that it's not a big category. But I can tell you that all the mom and pop nail salons prove the fact that there is a need, right? And so when people say there's so much competition in my market, well, are they closing?
Right.
Nope. They're not.
They're not.
People are getting their nails done. You know what I mean? So that for me, when someone says to me, Mark, I'm not going to look at that concept because there's just too much competition around. And I said, well, that competition is legitimizing the fact that it works.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So our community is what? Peachtree City, 30,000 people-ish?
35.
35?
Yeah, 35,000. What?
I could swing a cat and hit a nail salon, like within a foot.
You could do that anywhere. I
was up in Monroe, Michigan. Wanted to get a manicure with my mother-in-law. Could not find one to save our lives.
Because people are hardy.
Downturn up there. Yeah.
They're hardy.
They're doing their own.
Yeah.
Well, then go open one. up there. You
I
could
don't
be
want to live there.
See, and neither does anybody else. So I'll have to open a nail salon.
Yeah.
I just had a pedicure done yesterday at a
Did
new
you
one.
really?
Yeah,
Ooh.
I get the pedicures, but I also, for the first time, because I was waiting for Linda to get the little extra, get her nails painted.
Right.
She goes, "Why don't you get the manicure?" I'm like, "I've
it's
never
for
had
you.
it."
It's easy.
Didn't
Yeah,
felt
nice.
so
I know,
good.
it does feel nice.
And
But
all
we
the dead
digress.
skin is gone.
We digress.
But anyway,
yeah.
We're getting to the end, and I do have. This is my last question, unless you want to ask one first.
You go.
What's the worst? And you don't have to give the name of the company, but what was the worst franchise that you were either ever involved in or ever had to award to people? Trying to get the terminology right.
It's a very interesting question. I honestly, if I don't believe in the concept, I'm not going to show it to someone anyway. Okay. So it would be really, I'd hate not to answer a question, but I don't even know. I would say.
About one that you thought was going to be great and it turned out to be a goose egg in the end. Discretion is the better part of valor.
Donuts.
Yeah. You know what? There's a shit ton of money in donuts.
Wonderful. And I'm gluten intolerant. So there you
Me
go.
Too.
I'm out of the market right there.
I helped start this bread company, and it turns out that I'm celiac. I almost killed myself. I was in the hospital all the time. I was eating like a pound of bread a day.
I'm sorry.
You have celiac?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing. It's horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible.
The hard way to find out.
It tasted really good going down.
Yeah. Usually does.
So, I mean, I can't even tell you.
What franchises that you don't represent would you tell people to steer away from? How about that?
So
there's got to be something out there.
I'll be general. Okay. So people come to me always assuming that they want to do food.
See, that's what you first associate a franchise with. You think McDonald's franchise, it has to be food.
Right. Yeah. So of the 200 and some odd companies I have, I like 5 of them are food. And none of them are like sub shops. They're all like really cool, like more like boutique-y food, fun food kind of stuff. But food's hard. I would always tell people, like, why do you want to do food? It's really interesting. My wife just worked with a guy, and he decided that he was going to go buy an existing barbecue place. He had no idea about food. He had nothing. He just liked barbecue. So he thought that was going to be a great idea. So it all fell apart, and he came back like a couple of weeks later and wound up moving forward with literally an in-home care agency.
Oh, wow.
It was a way better fit for him. Like we said, okay, listen, you want to do barbecue, go do barbecue. Good luck. But it's a mistake.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he came back and did went the right direction. And it's going to be an amazing scenario for him because that's what he needs. He's a perfect match for it. He wasn't a match to be like slopping barbecue sauce on ribs all day.
No, there's a lot of moving parts in the food industry, especially food service industry. What was the biggest surprise out of them all? You were like, man, that thing turned out to be a golden goose. At first I said lay an egg, now a golden goose. Like this thing, you're like, yeah, it'll be decent. And you're like, holy cow.
The same story I just talked to you about with the low investment. And she's crushing it. And so what they do is, again, it's in the senior industry, but it's not senior care. What they do is they help people find like independent and assisted living places to move into.
Oh, like almost like a broker?
Yeah.
Kind of like,
there you go.
Yeah, let me tell you.
There's one for you.
Yeah, I know. It's needed. It's needed. It is so overwhelming.
10,000 people turn 70 every day.
Yep.
And it's not going away anytime soon.
No, and that generation likes to deny that they need help with daily care, and I don't need it. And then they get there, and they're like, "Oh, this is great."
What's her? I can't think of her name that we interviewed that helps people do the sorting and packing and organizing.
Oh yeah. It'll come to me. Andrea. Yeah, we interviewed a person who she works out of northern New Jersey, and she has a specific clientele that she works with a certain income, and she just helps them organize, pack, move, downsize, upsize, inside out, and everything.
Moving from a home to senior
she
to
does
assisted
that.
living and stuff. That's one of her niches there. It's like,
there's such a ripple effect in that industry where there's so many, like when I had my in-home care agency, my referral sources were a bunch of different, like senior transportation companies, the food delivery companies, even like Meals on Wheels, like all these companies, like all these places, the senior placement places, all these different companies were referral sources for me, because the seniors' lives touch so many industries, moving companies, like you said. They're everywhere. It's really, it's actually very cool.
Interesting. I get my wheels spinning here.
There you go.
I'm here when you need me.
Okay, Mark. Woo. Yeah, that's so fun to talk about this and the potentials.
The brain just
and it's a testament of, you don't necessarily have to go out and bootstrap your own from the bottom up company. There are opportunities if you have the money to invest to start with a franchise. It has a tried and true recipe for success.
Yes, and you really need to understand that the success rates of an independent operation that you bootstrap for yourself versus the success rate of a franchise. The success rates for independent business are like 10%.
Right.
The success rates for a franchise are 90%.
Yeah.
So, you're taking calculated risk by doing this, but you're reducing your risk so exponentially by going in with a company that gives you the recipe for success. Then it just makes sense. Obviously, that's what I do, but it's very, very to me obvious, but to others, they're like, well, why would I pay a franchise fee? Well, it's success insurance.
Right.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Because you're getting all the knowledge and all the good stuff that works, the recipe that works.
I will say this.
You can say it.
Because over the time, we've had now 3 and maybe 4, but 3, Carrie Ann, John, and Mark. And before that, I was a big naysayer when it came to franchises. I will tell you that. And I'm like, okay, we'll talk to folks. I'm going to listen to them. I'm not going to, obviously, I'm going to listen with open ears and an open mind. And every time we've talked to someone, it's like, okay, why would I not do this?
Exactly.
Why would I not do this? And thank you all. And you being the last, you have definitely opened my mind, a new avenue for me.
Sure.
And I've said it before, and I'm like, it's an opportunity, and I'm definitely not keeping it way out there.
Right.
It's moving more towards the center these days. Like, if I find the right one.
Yeah. The closer you get to retirement, you got to kind of think of it as this is an investment.
If I can use
$3 million
part of my 401k and go 10x instead of 10%.
Right.
Why would I not do it?
Exactly. Just kind of look at it. It's a different kind of investment, and it's not the stock market.
See, I know how to manage a business. I know how to run a business. I know how to manage people. I know how to stay out of their freaking way.
You do.
And hire the people to do it.
Right.
You do too.
And I got that email the other day about telling people how to clean the bathroom.
Don't bring that up now. Don't bring that up.
Off camera.
Off camera. But anyway, Mark, thank you for even making me more of a believer in franchises and being a guest on our show, sharing your story. There were so many other things that you said I'd love to talk about. Let's talk about this later. Let's talk about this later. So if you would like to, I'll reach out to you. And I'd love to have you back on just to talk about all those other things besides what we just talked about today. Because we love to pick people's brains.
We do. Yes, we do.
There are so many people out there listening who I'm sure you've inspired today, but could inspire with your nuggets of knowledge and help them out. So we'd love to have you back on the show. How do folks get a hold of, actually, how do folks get a hold of your wife? Because she sounds like more of a go-getter. No, but how do folks get a hold of you?
You will find both of us. We actually have a landing page for this episode. So it's frandestiny.com/beer.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
I like it.
Excellent.
Okay. So it's frandestiny.com/beer.
Okay.
Awesome. Right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. As we were talking before we started the episode, I hope you stay dry here for the next few days and it just goes out and around you.
Yeah, and I hope it misses you guys as much as possible too. It's coming right for you.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be interesting.
Lynn, thanks for being in the studio.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. Let me in the door.
Well, listeners, we got to tell you what, we appreciate you every week. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with somebody else. There might be somebody who just doesn't, they're like, oh, I got to find something to do.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you want to,
get inspired.
Hey, instead of just earning 10% on your 401k and you have the potential to 10x it, get a hold of Marc.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Everybody, y'all have a great week.
That's right. Have a good week.
You got it? Should I hit the stop button?
Hit the stop button. Yes. Thanks. All right. So did you see Darren and I mouthing to each other Chick-fil-A?
I didn't see what you were saying, but yeah.
So, Chick-fil-A is headquartered here in Atlanta, and you probably know